And let's take a few moments just to relax and arrive. So whatever position you are in, just stay in that position. Let's come into and appreciate the sacredness of this moment. And let's take a few moments just to open our lovely practice. Presence is all there is, quietly watching all our efforts to become more present. Now yoga. So I would just invite you to take the small bolster and or yes, I was going to say and or, but not and or. That may come later. I want to come into a very gentle lumbar compression. So I would roll it. So if you don't have the small bolster, just roll up a blanket or a towel, but not too much. You see, even here, I'm not rolling it all the way up. Yeah, and I'll do it with the roll. So what I would like you to do is to just place this as firmly as you can in the lumbar area. So sit on the floor, put the feet on the floor, and just gently roll back over this. So sometimes coming over it, the buttocks wants to tip up. Let it do that. Get the upper body nice and stable. And then as you let the legs relax out, let the buttocks come onto the floor so you feel supportive. And what I'm emphasizing here is a light compression. So not to have the discomfort such that you're like, this is my lower back. I want to ease into it. I want to stay here for a while, and we'll move the position of the legs a bit. So if you need to rearrange it a couple of times, and even if the small bolster is too much, just so you're feeling just a mild to moderate compression where you can really relax the hips and really feel that the lumbar area, especially the intrinsic muscles, can be receptive to this compression. So we're not forcing or trying to move through anything at this point, but just becoming very relaxed and receptive. The legs are relaxed out, no holding from the quadriceps or the hips. Let the hips relax as well. And this is the distinction that we often make in this approach is allowing the body or allowing these particular areas of the body to be particularly receptive to the discomfort, to the, even you may say awkwardness or whatever you're feeling. So if we find ourselves putting a bolster or being in a position where there's an element of, forcing it or wanting it to happen or making it happen or thinking this is where it should be happening, just very gently back away from that, lessen that attitude, lessen that level of compression, and it just set the body so it's receptive. And this is why we have a variety of towels or pillows or blankets, so we can apply just the right amount of mild to moderate compression in a container of receptivity that's unique to what you're experiencing in this very moment. And then another reminder is that fundamentally, your awareness is your guidance. So if you can really trust your awareness, then the mind and the body will take care of itself. So with that in mind, I'd like to sort of leave the body where it is, let this area where you're having sensations arise be relaxed and receptive. And I would just like to open just with a bit of exploration as to what we're really trying to, sift everything down to its most basic when we step into yoga. And like with all of the background, this instruction, and I put that in big quotes, is really just the background. It's as if you were just sitting and enjoying the beauty of a forest, and just the wind occasionally was just weaving through the trees and rustling in the leaves. It would just be a beautiful background, occasionally catching your attention. So just trust that the vibration of your body can decide what to be receptive to and not. So this is not an intellectual kind of instruction. It's just sort of a reminder of our of our yoga. Really, it's a reminder of our yoga. So let's begin. If they're not already, just allow your eyes to close. And just see that yourself, this sense of self, is present. And we want to see this sense of self being present without referring to the past. So seeing that this sense of self is present without referring to the past, and just exploring just based on your current experience. So we're not referencing thought, we're not referencing sensation, we're not referencing feelings or perceptions. I'm not saying they won't be there, but we're not referencing them as an identity or a sense of self. So we're putting all of those aside, thoughts, sensations, feelings, perceptions, and just seeing that yourself is present. And then what is left then? This is what we're sifting through. So it's a rhetorical question. So what is left when we're not referencing memory, when we're not referencing the past, when we're not referencing thoughts, sensations, feelings, and perceptions, is this sense of I am. And I know that I am. So this is where I would invite you to just relax into. Relax into this sense of self that at its very essence knows that I am. So it's this sense of I am before any experiencing, any referencing, and this knowingness that I am, and just allowing and just realizing that uh, this is a place that is quiet and is at peace. Seeing that this sense of self is present right now, this sense of I am, I know that I am, and also appreciating, and this is a very beautiful thing to appreciate because it grounds us and it's as fundamental as we can get, that this is an ordinary sense of self. This is not an extraordinary self. This is not a spiritual self. It's not a mystical self. It's not a transcendent self. It's just your sense of self. Before experiencing, allowing a deep and genuine sense of relaxing into a place that is quiet and is at peace. So let's simply bend the knees at this point and just place the feet flat on the floor. And allow both knees to very slowly fall over to the left side. Yeah, so we're just coming into a reclining twist, but obviously this little bit of compression that we've created with the bolster is going to add an element to it. So my suggestion is to adjust the legs appropriately. So the full weight of both legs have fallen over to the left, and then you may want to open that top leg, that right leg out a little bit, or adjust the feet so we can sink into this this twist with this compression. And then we can keep this invitation open throughout the practice. It's a lovely thing to do, that there's not a need to reference the past in any way. There's not a need to reference your thoughts, to reference your sensations, to reference your feelings, or to reference your perceptions. Now, certainly these things may come into your field, and it is always your choice to open up a doorway for exploration, but it's not necessary. So we're just allowing ourselves to, in a way, it's very grounding to stay grounded in this I am, and I know that I am. And then this is the ground of being. This is ultimately the awareness that we're exploring. Yeah. So meditative awareness simply means that we're open to exploring the nature and texture of awareness. We're becoming aware that we're aware. And then everything that appears and disappears on the screen, yeah, so be it. But we don't need to follow it, and we don't need to get entangled with it. We don't need to turn it into a story or a problem or an issue, because just as quickly as it comes, it has the capacity to also fade and disappear. And once we really start to experience this, we can't take this on theory or on sort of an intellectual trusting. Once we start to experience how all of these things appear and disappear within this sense of I am, within this presence of being, it's very freeing. It's a type, it's the liberation really that yoga talks about. Good. So those knees, legs that we have off to the left side, let's just slowly bring them up. And with the feet on the floor, if you need a little adjustment into the lower back, I know we've been here for a while, please make that. You can make that either scooting your body up a little bit, bringing the bolster a little closer to the lower thoracic spine. You can unroll your roll. You can remove the small bolster. Don't add anything. Let's move more towards relaxing. Yeah, so any adjustment would be made now. And then when you're ready, with the feet firmly on the floor, we'll let both legs go to the right side. And one of the things that James really reminds us of in this lovely book about breathing is how fundamentally the breath is connected to and responsible for the well-being of all our systems, all our processes, and of course, this is our breath. So we certainly can approach our breathing in a more esoteric sort of pranic awakening and feel the subtle pathways of the body. Or we can just appreciate that when we are breathing, we are rejuvenating, we are supporting, we are inviting aliveness into this very system that we call our human body. So allow yourself as much freedom to come in and out of the conscious breathing. And sometimes it's very, very subtle, and where it's just a whisper, and other times we can feel it so deeply that this is the energy of aliveness that we have the privilege to bring into our body and feel it, and the privilege to allow it to release any impurities and tension that we might be holding. So let's once again allow those legs to come on up. And then you can just bring, it's nice to just tuck the knees up in towards the chest a bit and sway back and forth and allow a little massage-like movement into these lower back muscles. And even though I was encouraging this to be, rather mild to moderate, still we can see just the magic of holding for time, how it sort of eased into these threads of tension in the body. So just appreciate that the power of the compression is really what we're exploring in terms of the dynamics of the body. And then when you're ready, if you could just roll off of your bolstering onto your side and find a comfortable position for a bit, and we'll take a rest before we actually move on. I think yoga is, at least in this presentation of it, is or can be very much like just meandering through your body. I don't know if you know or familiar with meandering, but I love to meander with no intention, with no place to get to, but just to meander. And so we don't have to hold a deep focus. We don't have to have target areas of the body. We just allow ourselves to meander through the body, understanding that the goal is always where we start from. So whatever you're open to, whatever you sort of meander into and explore, this is good. This is allowing you tremendous freedom to sort of feel this physical body, whether we call it vibration or energy or bone or pain, dysfunction, it doesn't matter, because we're just meandering. We're just collecting and being available to the information that the system is able to provide us. This is what I was saying, another way of saying what I said earlier, that awareness is really the guide. And when we start to trust our awareness, everything will take care of itself. It's amazing, really. So let's come on up, please. And we're going to use, if you do have a large bolster, get yourself the large bolster. If you don't have the large bolster, as you can see, I'm getting a bit adept at creating the same effect with, I've used here 2 blankets and a pillow. Yeah, so either way, it's going to work. I'm going to do this one with the big bolster. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the left leg and bring it in. So just pull it in front of you. So this left leg is a bit parallel to the body. And then we'll take the large bolster or your blanket pillow combination and put it in front of you. So this is the height we want to achieve, as you can see, or not see, but it's a nice height. And then we're going to take the right foot leg and put it on it. Be a little careful here. Let me see if I can, that you don't put the foot and from the knee to the ankle, so it's on the edge towards you, so it starts to slip down as we come forward. We want to maintain the support of the foot, ankle, and pretty much the knee. The knee can come off a little bit, but the main bulk of the thigh and the calf. So we're really, really elevating this right side up to get kind of juicy into the IT band and then the piriformis. And then the forward bend, coming forward, and you may want to use some secondary bolstering up front to support some upper body weight, but try to relax as much as possible those lower back muscles, especially since they will be holding some of that backward bend we just did. So do take your time, find a place that you can really start to relax and sink in. And just to remind us all that thinking about something, superimposing thought after thought after thought, even if it's a lofty and a scientifically correct thought, is not the same as awareness. Awareness is empty, open, intelligent space where the thoughts arise and the thoughts subside, just like sensations. So when I say to trust awareness, we have to sort of kind of clean out the cobwebs of these sort of spider webs a bit of our thinking and our need to analyze and our need to fix, and just be aware and trust and sink into and allow this awareness to be open and expansive. Again, your breathing can be subtle and ethereal, or it can be profoundly grounding. But either way, it is essential. And so to have some appreciation for this essence of our breathing that is essential. And almost as a flow, to allow ourselves to flow back to this presence of I am and I know that I am. So we don't have to get caught up in all of the glitter of the world, all of the stories and the pain and the hope and the sunsets and on and on. But we can explore the profound beauty that we can simply experience these things. And it's in the experiencing that we allow this uh, experience of being present to just flow. It's when we start to grab onto the all of the good things, we want to hold them, all of the bad things, we want to push them away. But underneath that, right underneath that, is just the dynamic of experiencing. And if we can rest back into the experience, then we just allow ourselves the freedom to let it come and let it go. Enjoy it when we're enjoying it. When we're not enjoying it, we're not enjoying it. So very slowly, let's open up from this supported position with that right leg on top of a pillows or a bolster, and just come on up slowly. And you can remove your support from underneath the right leg. And I'd like you just to open your legs out about 2 inches on either side if you have a mat. So it's not hip width, it's not full straddle, it's somewhere in between. And then we'll come right back into this forward bend, but without the support back of the legs now. And then take that support if you would like it or feel you need it up front here to lean on it in any way that seems compatible, especially to be able to relax the neck and soften down the spine. So we're not holding on to anything. We're not fearful that we're going to go too deep. The depth is really a consequence of the length of time we hold. The depth is not a consequence of setting up a deep position and hoping for a response in a certain area. We're just wanting to relax and allow just allow the sensations the freedom to be. I think one of the really important things about being able to explore the self as I am without having to reference these, the changeability of thoughts and perceptions and feelings, is that we settle into a place where uh, we get to explore that there's only really two things that we want, across the board, all 7 billion of us on this planet. We want to be happy. We want happiness that's not contingent upon changing circumstances. And we want to know the nature of reality. So if we're having to wade through all of this circumstance, the thoughts that change, the sensations that change, the body that changes, the feelings and perceptions, then we stay in this labyrinth. If we're able to, and I say this directly, the direct experience of being this I am presence, very, very ordinary, very, very close to you, closer than close to you, it is you. And when we can open this space for ourselves and relax here, we see that this quest, if you will, of wanting to be happy and wanting to know the nature of reality, these are the same thing. And uh, once we really know this, once it's a knowing, as we know this, we don't just understand it, then we're free to explore whatever we would like, because our happiness and our sense of reality are not contingent upon what our explorations are. Then life becomes much more fun. So let us come on up from here, this kind of modified straddle. And let's take a rest here. So you can bring the legs in a bit, lie down on your back, and we'll take a rest. Or you can curl on your side, or whatever feels most comfortable. And so I believe, where my yoga studies have taking me over, over the years, is that, certainly it is possible to explore these more subtle realms of self and awareness and clarity when the body is super contracted and in pain. Yes, people have done it, but it's tremendously difficult. It inhibits the process in some ways, at least for myself, because the body as a vibration is expressing as frequencies that are in a lovely equilibrium, or can be in a lovely equilibrium. And so when we experience traumas and dehydration and repressed emotions, this alters our vibratory frequency. And this is what produces this sense of contraction, this sense of stiffness, this sense of pain. So it's an interesting study. Is it purely physical? Is it metaphysical? And how is the intelligence and the life force that's moving through the body expressing itself or not, based on how contracted the body is? So this is why we hold these poses. These poses are meant, certainly to give us the space to explore, this study of self, which is primary to yoga, but also, the 3 to 5 minute area is when the phenomena of the piezoelectricity begins to occur. We begin to have this bioelectrical current start to flow based on compressing for that amount of time. And then beyond that, the body then, produces the sort of natural inflammatory process. So we start to go deeper in opening up the body. So it's this is what I say. This is what I mean by meandering. There's no specific destination. There's not a checklist that if we do everything in this way, we'll get this result. The meandering is sometimes we just, through a yoga pose, can just come into just beautiful place of stillness, where, like I said, we can just experience the beauty and how profound experiencing itself is. Other times we're more drawn into, oh yes, this frequency, this vibration of the body has become somewhat altered and it doesn't feel good. There's pain here. How do I draw awareness? How do I bring clarity? What is the guidance that I need to open up the system? So we have physical flow, but we also have this flow of exploration of what our essence really is. So the study of yoga is quite vast. I mean, just to, as we come up, let's come on up and we'll shift to the next pose, but just to, just to look at your hand or your hands, like, what are they? What are these hands that they're just so amazing? And we can't just label them. A hand tells us nothing. There's a complexity there. There's a beauty there. There's an intelligence there that is worthy to contemplate. This is the intelligence of the whole body. So when things get constricted and the vibration and the frequency slows down, what do we do with that? Do we just hope, or do we just go to some, external expert, or do we go deeper inside? And the yoga is saying, go deep, go as deep as you can, go down to the cellular level and let the vibration of your body inform you. Learn this new language of your body because it's available to you. So let's do the other side. Let's take that bolstering that you have. We'll bring the right leg in. We'll take the left leg and put it up on top. And then we'll slowly come into the forward bend. Slowly come into the forward bend. Really relax the neck and the shoulders. If you need to put the hands on secondary bolstering out front or the head, as much as you can, just soften. Just this awakening and this realignment and this rehydrating. I mentioned, I think offhand, repressed emotions. Certainly, those are woven into the fabric of the physical. So, whatever you're feeling is certainly part of it. And I was thinking as I was just talking before that really what I'm doing in my vocalizing here is really I am just mirandering. So I'm sort of role modeling mirandering for the body, the exploration. And let me just say that directly and clearly, repressed emotions alter the vibratory frequency of your body and have the capacity to manifest as pain. Look deeply, listen deeply, and allow your understanding to be organic, somatic, and intuitive. Allow your understanding to be organic, somatic, intuitive. Any resistance that appears, simply don't resist it. Relax into it, lean into it. Even if this means withdrawing slightly, the moment you start to resist resistance, you're then creating resistance. You are reinforcing the resistance. So let's come on up from here, please. Nice and slowly. And we're going to go into that same forward bend. I'm just going to grab a blanket. If you have the small bolster, it works perfectly. And this is just an option if you would like. If you would like to have a small bolster or a rolled blanket and just place it under the knees at the length of the blanket or the bolster. So the small one, and then we'll come to this forward bend. This is just an option. If you want to go back to where we were, perfectly fine to do that. Just sometimes this alleviates different, different contractions. So you're just in a little bit different relationship, but your choice. Just relax the head down, come into the second part of this forward bend. So we don't go looking for this I am, because we already are this I am. We just knowingly relax into it. And the only mistake that we ever can make in this inquiry is to look for an object. But we are not objects, we are self-luminous. So whenever you come upon an object, you know this is not myself. And we just allow that object to do what it will. And this can get very tricky because these objects can take on a mystical, spiritual, transcendental quality. And we think, oh, there I am, that's me. Still an object. So this sense of I am, and I know that I am, that's enough. This is just quiet, peaceful abiding. Then we have the space, we have the wherewithal to then allow our experience to be as entertaining or brilliant or interesting or boring, scary as it will be, but it will come and it will go. These objective experiences come and they go, whether thoughts, sensations, feelings, or perceptions. And just simply be aware of being aware. So no need to go on a journey, no need to seek out anything, no need to look for yourself as any object. It's a simple recognition, really, that you are self-luminous. Good, so let us come on up, please. And let's lie down and take a nice rest. I don't know why I was, lately I've been thinking about A Course in Miracles. It was, and one of the things that I was really marveling my mind was I started a serious study of A Course in Miracles when I was in high school. So that's going back a ways, and got some lovely benefit from the teachings, and then faded away from it. But one of the things I remember, and maybe I won't get this quote exactly right, but a course says that enlightenment is not a change; it's a simple recognition. So nothing needs to change. We don't need to add or take away. We just allow ourselves, and this is why the quiet and the equanimity is so important, why the silence is so important, because from there, it's just a simple recognition of, oh yes, I just am this awareness. I am this presence. I am this divine presence, if you like. I am self-luminous. I am creativity. I am beauty. I am non-duality. The words don't matter because the recognition of it is enough. So it's, nothing wrong with searching and seeking, but only if it's a hobby, only if we enjoy it. Not if we're trying to improve, if we're trying to change. Enlightenment needs no change at all. It's a simple recognition that nothing needs to change, that my eternal presence is my eternal presence. So I just want to say really one thing about this next shoulder compression that we're going to do, because like I said earlier, the magic of this practice is the length of time we stay with the compression. So what can typically happen when we're compressing, and especially in an area like the shoulder girdle, and especially the amount of compression, because we're using most of the upper body, is that the length of the arm and the hand and the fingers can start to tingle. So if it's just a generalized tingling, as if the arm is falling asleep, that's absolutely fine. I know sometimes concern comes up with like, oh my God, my arm is tingling. The kind of tingling we want to be aware of is if it becomes sharp. Yeah, if it becomes edgy, electrical, this is then nerve. Typically that doesn't happen in this area because unless you have some sort of real serious misalignment or injury. So if the arm goes to sleep, just let it go to sleep. If you go to sleep, let yourself go to sleep. We're just going to apply this long held compression into the shoulder in order to get juicy in there. Like I said, the 3 to 5 is the initial stimulating of the bioelectricity through the system, which is enlivening it. And then beyond 5 is when we start, I think it's called interleukin 8. It's some substance that is anti-inflammatory that gets released after a certain hold. And this is why we do these holds so long. It's not so I can just ramble. It's to compress into the body and allow it to start to rejuvenate and rehydrate. So the way that I would like to get into the shoulder opener is to just simply come onto the, and you may want to have a little blanket or pillow or something for the head. So we'll come as if we were going to do the backward bend in the Sphinx position onto the forearms. So the elbows are under the shoulders, and we can just stay here for a minute. This would be nice. Just sort of ease into that lumbar area. Let's do that. Let's just stay here for a bit. Let the head kind of wander around a little bit, maybe sway the hips a little bit. So all of that forward bending, but we're really here to go into this shoulder opener. And this is, I love this position particularly because you can really feel the sensitivity between the upper spine and the lower spine. So any movement of the head, that contraction in the lumbar is so apparent. Good. So then when you're ready, we'll keep the weight onto the left forearm and we'll take the right arm and we'll just slip it under that left armpit. And then we're going to relax down onto the right shoulder. The tendency here is then want to roll over to the left. What I would prefer is to let that left arm relax out in front of you so you can support yourself up if you need to, but let the left shoulder and the left hip relax down. Both legs are relaxed out. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll pull this left leg up just to kind of support and open my hips a bit. And then you can let the head go down to the side like this. So it's going to hit the floor. This can be a little tweaky in the neck if it pinches. So that's why I suggested having a pillow or a blanket here so you can rest. Not so much, we don't want to force the neck area too much. This, lateral flexion of the cervical spine is really tricky. So I'd rather support it and then let the weight of this left side of the body draw you into this right shoulder area, rotator cuff area, and then just get as relaxed as you possibly can. And again, the reminder is do not resist the resistance. So this could be an underlying mantra of this yoga. Is just resistance will present itself, yes, many different forms. Just simply don't resist it and see what happens. And just to say one more thing about this tingling in a broader way is that if we're going to work with pain at this level, we must feel safe. So this is why I talk about resistance in this way, but just, good old school pain. If we're going to work with it creatively, if we're going to explore the texture of it, we must feel safe. This whole, no pain, no gain, push through the pain, that's a completely different thing. This is not that. This is no pain kind of thing, that it starts to, the texture of sensation starts to contract, the density starts to get more dense, it starts to translate as pain. If you feel safe, explore it. If you don't feel safe, withdraw, readjust. So the safety is fundamental. And then from there, we can do whatever we like. And what we typically call ourself, if we were asked to describe ourself on some level, it's really nothing more than just a conglomeration of stories. And this can, often take us away from a deeper exploration. So it's not so much, yoga is not so much asking, how do you feel about your life? Because then we just go to those stories. Yoga is more interested in how do you actually feel your life at the level and the nature of your existence, the depth of your existence. How do you feel your life? What within what within our collection of cells, even not to mention life around us, but what is in every moment, what is rebirthing and what is dying. So it's so beautiful just to be alive at this level, uh, to really sink into this level. How do we love while we're being destroyed? It's just an incredible ride that we're on. And nothing wrong with these stories. Some of them are quite noble and well intended and quite brilliant. Others not so. But we all have if we want to be free, if we want to be happy, if we want to understand the nature of our reality, then we let go of the narrative. We start to see the difference between the narratives and this sense of self. And even the difference between naming something and telling stories about it. So we could name the discomfort, but we don't have to overlay a story on it. We could name an emotional challenge. We could feel an emotional challenge, but we don't have to superimpose, a whole short story around it. So just take a few gentle, deeper breaths and just see what the breath is moving or approaching. So just allow the breath to feel as a light wind, and it's just pressing or approaching any part of the body that you feel it. Breath, movement, intermingling with the apparent physical. And then what I'm going to suggest, and for the length of time we've been here, instead of pressing up that left arm, I'm just going to suggest to roll over to the left. So we'll just roll off of this right shoulder and just lie on your back. And we'll just rest here before we do the other side. So we'll just let that chi distribute evenly before we do the other side. So nice just to come to your back to do that. But of course the mind rebels greatly against these, sort of lofty, concepts of there's nothing to change, there's nothing to do. We simply recognize our basic presence, our basic awareness. But that's not necessarily true, because the mind has a great capacity for creativity and enjoyment and celebration. So if the mind is on this journey to figure out who we are, the mind needs to become awakened or enlightened. The mind has its challenges and its struggles. It's a simple redirection to really, there's nothing to find. I am and have always been this expansive awareness, this divine presence. So then instead of, uh, not having anything for the mind to do, the mind then can get tremendously creative. The mind can find ways to celebrate, to enjoy. Good, so let's do the other side. And we'll come back onto the forearms, if you will. And again, let's just spend a little time here on the forearms, just having a little sway or a little wobble of the hips, a little movement of the head, easing into the lower back or wherever, really. And then when you're ready, we'll take that left arm and we'll slip it under the right armpit. We'll relax down onto that left shoulder. And again, try not to roll away from it. So put the right arm out in front of you and let that right shoulder, right hip relax. Although I like to, it's optional. You can bring this left knee up, just open the hips a bit, and then have something or not for the head so it's not twisting the neck too much. And again, we'll just and make any little adjustments here. Just get as relaxed as possible so we can, enjoy the full length of time, even if that arm does get tingly. And I do believe that this is precisely why slowing down is so important, is that, by slowing down, we really get to explore the basic truths of just being alive. And what's very interesting about this, this alleged collective slowing down that we're all, sort of exploring, is kind of the resistance just to slowing down, even when it's, being imposed on us. That there's still this, tremendous pull to gather information from, just a variety of sources, instead of taking the time to cultivating this slowing down. this moving inward to explore the basic truths of being alive, to start to trust that life itself has just a tremendous amount to share with us and to teach us. And so, how then to say, yes, a time and a place and appropriate for me to extend outward. This is my yang energy, to be active, to collect information, to be interested in others. And then there's certainly a time to pull inward and explore the wisdom that is apparent in every breath, the wisdom that is apparent in the movement of the body from moment to moment. And this is true equilibrium. And this is living in balance. And then we lose sight of the concept of yin and yang. We lose sight of that there's an inner and the outer. And we start to see that the universe itself is a reflection of our inner world, that the macro is the micro. So great, great value in slowing down, listening to the basic truths of being alive. And the other, tremendously great value of slowing down is it gives us the opportunity to see that what arises, arises, that what changes, changes. And so the slowing down allows us to see that. And that whatever it is, it just passes away. And it allows us to soften the grip of attachment, to soften the grip of needing things to be a certain way. And the slowing down is like, yes, whatever's arising is arising. Whatever's changing is changing. And it's all passing away. this is the skill of yoga. The skill of yoga is cultivating this slowing down. And then we're able to come into a sense of non-judgmental clarity. And when we have this non-judgmental clarity, then we really have something. This gives us a tremendous magnifying glass to then explore whatever it is we want to explore. Like I said earlier, without getting caught up in the glitter of everything. Good. So let us roll off of this arm again. Now, you can slide it out if you like, or I'm just saying the roll at this length of holding. Sometimes rolling off of it is a little more palatable. And then let's come into a rest. So whatever is most comfortable to let the body unwind a bit. More and more, I really do believe that that we have the opportunity to approach yoga the way that it was received. So a lot of what we think of as yoga today in our modern times is really a distortion. It's a misrepresentation, especially with the emphasis just on the physical, on the asana. So yoga was received just by individuals that wanted to access, explore what I said earlier, that they just wanted to explore happiness and the nature of reality. And so they just went into quiet places and sat quietly and listened. And sometimes this is all we need to do, is to sit quietly and listen. And from that listening, guidance was received on how to hold the body, how to move the body, how to listen to the body. And, it was, just centuries and centuries before it began to become codified and taught the way it is. So it was really meant to hold a container, to use the self to hold a container to explore this concept of the self, of I am, and I know that I am. And so that opportunity is as available to us today as it was when these individuals, these men and women, went into the forest and just sat quietly and listened and trusted the wisdom of the body and trusted the basic truths of life. So this approach is really a resurfacing of the yoga consciousness back into our modern world on how to approach the body and the mind. So let's come on up, if you will, and I want to go back to where we started. And where we started was either with just the small bolster in the low back or a rolled blanket, at whatever height was appropriate. What I want to do now is I want to get a little bit deeper. So if you're using the small bolster, I'm going to recommend it to place it on a blanket. And this might not seem like much, and this is a pretty a small blanket. And or if you had just the blanket rolled, maybe you could roll it up a little bit more. And that's up to you. So where we started initially was this mild to moderate compression. We just want to intensify the compression a bit. So that's unique to you. So whatever you feel. So this, I will just feel it myself because I initially did it with just my little bolster. So we'll, again, keep the feet on the floor. And what I'm going to recommend is when you're coming over this, the buttock tips up, let it do that and come onto the pelvis first a bit. So you can see I'm on my pelvis, And then when you let the legs out, just kind of scooch down a bit to pull it into the lower back. And you can stay on the pelvis as long as you'd like. So stay on the pelvis for a while. Be like, yes, relax. And then let the legs open. And then when you're ready, you can pull yourself down so that bolster slips up from the pelvic area, the pelvic bowl, right up into the lumbar. So yes, this is significantly, more intense. So we've gone from moderate to mild, or mild to moderate, to a level of intensity that we are going to just compress more into the lumbar. And then at some point, we do want the buttocks on the floor, both legs relaxed out, and the arms just wherever they're most comfortable. And one of the ways that we can really open up this exploration, this is all, it's all self-inquiry. Yoga is, the Sanskrit is atmavachara, inquiry of the self. So one of the things that we have the opportunity to do is, so here's the invitation. It's so simple and so beautiful, just to sit quietly and listen. And then, as we know, these urges arise, these sometimes very nuanced urges, just to go do something else or go think something else or whatever it happens to be, go back to that reoccurring, obsessive thought. So one of the things we get to do when we sit quietly and listen, before we even get to the content of the urge, is see what the urge itself is made of. What is the texture of an urge that is arising before you even approach it? And this is true of everything. Everything that arises as an objective experience, again, whether it's a thought, a sensation, a feeling, or perception, if we can sit quietly and relax in this non-judgmental clarity, we can explore what it actually is. It's beautiful. This is the self-inquiry. The self-inquiry isn't taking all of the esoteric texts and scriptures and trying to apply them moment to moment. The self-inquiry is, what is the fabric and the nature of the self at this level? When I've made a decision to sit quietly and listen and to relax into my own inner peace and a sense of equilibrium, and then there's something called an urge. There's something, a nuanced energy that's inviting me to do something else. What is that? That's the beauty and the depth of Atma Vichara, of self-inquiry. At some point, we get to question, and again, get to question from a place of non-judgmental clarity, that how much that we're taking in is just noise and just clutter and just habit. And this is one of the, I believe, one of the darker sides of technology. Is not that inherently it's good or bad, but as a species, we're just simply chattering, we're babbling, we're just back and forth with our own species. To sit quietly and listen, it means not only to listen to our own inner impulse, our own uh, vibration and cellular intelligence, but to listen to the dirt, to listen to the birds, to listen to the wind, to listen to the cycle of the sun rising and setting. So we expand the way that we receive the intelligence of life. And we also get to see then, what are we putting value on? Are we putting value on something that is worthless because we've just been responding to this noise and this clutter and this chatter? So quieting down has just tremendous value. Quieting down, sitting in just simple silence, this is the yoga. The, the asana itself is just to create a container, so the pain and the constriction and the trauma of the body allows us to do that. And then the benefits of flexibility and deeper sense of health and well-being, those are secondary. The primary function of our yoga is just to sit quietly and contemplate. So please, let's put the feet on the floor. But before you are too anxious to roll out of this, let's get the pelvis back on this bolstering. And then whatever you would like here, just take some time. You could either just stretch the legs out and just keep receiving the compressive force into the pelvis. You could bring the knees up to the chest. You can sway. You can do a reclining twist by bringing the knees to the side. So let's just take a little bit of time to not only unwind and release the lumbar compression, but now let it soften into and give you some time in the pelvis here as well. So whatever feels appropriate, just take the time here. And then whenever you would like, we can either, you could either keep swaying the hips and exploring the pelvis if you'd like. You can come into a final counter pose if you'd like. You can come into Shavasana if you would like. So we'll just take some time and then I will close. So obviously with this, with this virtual situation we have, I'm just leaving, I'm ending open-endedly because it seems most appropriate. So, please feel free to take care of yourself in any way that is appropriate. And touch the earth, honor the sky, bless the water. And namaste.